Hello! It occurred to me the other day, just completely out of the blue, that a better name for these videos than monthly highlights and reviews, would just be mini reviews, because that's what they are. They are mini reviews of movies that I saw in the previous months. So I think that from now on, I'm going to call them mini reviews. So here are my mini reviews of some movies I saw in June, starting with a movie that came out late last year, Hacksaw Ridge, the World War II film based on a true story directed by Mel Gibson and starring Andrew Garfield as a conscientious objector who wants to serve as a medic but has sworn not to kill and not to touch a gun. It follows him from his youth to his controversial status at boot camp to his heroic accomplishment in the war. Of the movies I've seen that generated Oscar buzz last year, I think I liked this one the most, which really shouldn't come as a huge surprise given that it's a World War II movie. It was well made, well acted, with especially good support from Hugo Weaving and, surprisingly, Vince Vaughn, and above all, just a great story that made for an engrossing film. As others have reported, yes, it gets dark and violent after the halfway mark, but the graphic and disturbing images weren't there just for the sake of being shocking. I felt they drove home what a horrifying situation these soldiers were facing in this seemingly interminable battle against the Japanese on Okinawa. On a much lighter side note, there's a character who appears in one scene, and when I saw this actor and heard him speak, I knew him, but I couldn't put my finger on it, and it drove me crazy. Well, at the end of the movie, I was watching as the credits rolled by, and I was like, there's gotta be a name here that jumps out at me, and I saw Judge Philip Quast. Philip Quast! Philip Quast! Philip Quast is an Australian film, TV, and stage actor, most known, at least to me, for owning the role of Inspector Javert on the complete symphonic recording of Les Miserables and in the 10th anniversary concert, also known as the Dreamcast. And in my teenage musical theater craze, I was pretty nutty about his awesome voice. So I'm kind of embarrassed that I didn't recognize him at the time, but then I went back the next day and rewatched the scene and was like, oh, of course that's him, and then proceeded to spend a happy hour or two watching clips of his work on YouTube. So thank you, Hacksaw Ridge, for sending me on that rabbit trail. There's only one other war movie on this month's list, and that is Kelly's Heroes, a 1970 film that's kind of more a bank heist movie than a war movie, as it's about a group of guys who go off on their own into Nazi territory to steal 40,000 gold bars. This is a quirky movie. I wasn't into it at first, but once the characters developed a rapport and the plan got rolling, I found myself really enjoying it. A lot of what's so fun about this movie comes from Donald Sutherland's performance as Oddball. He tends to steal the show with his unusual mannerisms and anachronistic lines, making him more like a character who wandered in from a Vietnam War movie. Favorite parts? Every time Clint Eastwood or Telly Savalas react to one of the weird things that Sutherland's character says, which gets funnier every time it happens, and the scene toward the end where the whole thing turns into a spaghetti western parody. Movie number 3 is 2012's Life of Pi, which I'd been intending to see for years, but I never got around to it until now. I'd read the book by Jan Martel twice, though not recently, and liked it overall, and I was curious to see how the movie compared. Surprisingly, I found it to be a very close adaptation in most respects. It retained the novel's fantastical elements and even found ways to build on some of them in very creative ways. As had been the case when I read the book, the entire middle section where Pi is stuck with Richard Parker and the other animals, and then just Richard Parker on the lifeboat, was the most engaging part for me. Go figure, I just like stories about people stranded on the ocean, whether they're alone, with another person, or with a beautiful wild tiger. The mysterious shifting dynamic between Pi and Richard Parker is fascinating, as is the suggested possible twist at the end. I think the movie's greatest strength is how it goes above and beyond with visual spectacle, offering some truly awe-inspiring images that are hard to forget. I also saw, for the second time, 1943's I Walked with a Zombie. The first time I saw it, I was very tired, and I dozed my way through the entire 69-minute movie, which left me with a vague impression of a strange, kind of dull movie with some freaky voodoo stuff. The second time around, I had actually just woken up from a power nap that I accidentally took at the end of a previous movie, which was awful, about a killer tree stump, and so I was bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and ready to tackle I Walked with a Zombie again, and I stayed awake the whole time, and, it really made a big difference. I still think it's a strange story with a lot of freaky voodoo stuff, but it's not dull. Because of its title and the fact it's a Val Lewton production, you might expect it to be scary, but the titular zombie is not of the flesh or brain-eating variety, and it's not so much a horror film as a dark, atmospheric romance. It does have certain traits in common with Jane Eyre, intentional or not, I don't know, especially concerning Tom Conway's character, who hires the heroine to come to the West Indies to be a live-in nurse for his comatose wife. He's handsome but mysterious, and you spend the whole movie wondering if he's done something sinister or if he's just a melancholy, wounded man. So, whereas my first viewing inevitably left me feeling indifferent, I realize now that it does have an interesting story, and in true Val Lewton fashion, some very memorable images and suspenseful sequences. Now, the last one for today is Prisoners. This 2013 movie depicts the aftermath of the kidnapping of 2 little girls on Thanksgiving. Hugh Jackman plays the father of one of the missing girls, and Jake Gyllenhaal plays the detective on the case. This is a serious, provoking drama that goes down some dark paths. I didn't always like the things that happened, things characters did, bad choices they made, but I still liked the movie. As a crime story, it was very good, tense and complicated, and made even better by equally intense performances from Jackman and Gyllenhaal. It's quite long, about 2.5 hours, taking time to let each event unfold and juggling the police procedural aspect with the emotional trauma the girls' families are going through. But it doesn't drag, and actually, as long as it was, Mom and I both wondered if there were any cutscenes that would have helped explain a couple details we were still unclear about. This is a movie where you have to pay attention and work to follow what the characters are thinking because, for the most part, there's not a whole lot of exposition. A little content advisory, there is quite a bit of swearing and some disturbing violence, so keep that in mind. Also, there's a scene with snakes, which was awful. I hated that. Couldn't wait for that bit to be over. Ugh. So that's what else I saw in June. It was a busy month, not as much time for watching movies, but I hope there was something there to catch your interest. As always, there will be a list of the titles mentioned in the description below. I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. Bye!